In this video, I'm going to show you how to master photorealism in Midjourney. And I'm going to show you how to do that with the methodology of a photographer. So I started my career in photography. I've directed major photo campaigns. I've shot for major brands. And I'm going to teach you the methodology that's going to help you create images that are, number one, extremely high quality, and number two, unique. So first up, we're going to define our style. My style is very cinematic, abstract, artsy. So I typically start with photographers that I really admire and just kind of looking at their work and, grabbing some imagery that makes me feel like, oh yeah, I would love if I could do something like this. So this photographer is really dope. Ogale, I hope I didn't pronounce your name incorrectly. And then we have another director and photographer, Kristen Lee Moulman, and just really love her portraiture. And then finally we have Campbell Addy. Sorry if I'm butchering these names, but really, really love his portraiture as well. Visual artist Fikri. I really, really love this individual's work. They basically, for me, nail peaceful sense of isolation. So a lot of this imagery just is very it makes me feel something. I don't know what it makes me feel, but it makes me feel something. And so I have some subject references here, showing, duality and just stark contrast and a little bit of motion. And then these environments that really feel like a peaceful sense of isolation. There's a lot of mystery in them. And so basically looking to combine these subjects with the environment in a couple different ways. So the first way that we're going to do that is using Midjourney's describe command. So this first image, there's a few different options here. We've got, an African model standing on a runway, an African woman in a white dress. We've got some artist references. So first up, I want to try to create a portrait that has a little bit of this movement. Based on my experience, Midjourney is not really going to get it right at first. And so we'll really have to do a lot of experimentation here. But I'm going to start with my attempt. I basically start by copying and pasting certain elements and then changing them as I go. So an African woman in a white dress. African woman tends to skew the results to make it seem kind of stereotypical, which is a whole other conversation. So I'm actually going to say a black woman. I'm going to try to put someone who kind of looks like me with dreadlocks in a white dress. In the style of, we've got ethereal abstractions and we have experimental layering. And so those two might give us a little bit of that shifting look that we have, along with fluid gestures and blurry details. So I'm going to kind of add a few of these here. In the style of ethereal abstractions, with blurry details and experimental layering. So as you'll notice, I'm trying to use natural language. Midjourney V5 works best when you try to form your prompt as a sentence versus a bunch of keywords that are separated with commas, essentially. So we are going to separate some things with commas. Let's check these artist references and see if they kind of match up with what we're looking for. So we're going to open this in a new link. Oh, this is super cool. Yeah, I definitely want to include this artist in my prompt. So let's just go ahead and copy that. And I'm going to say by Ingrid Beers, and let's see if any of these other artists work. Wow. This is also a really great way to discover other artists. It's like pretty fantastic. This is much more of like a kind of high fashion look, which I'm not sure I'm going for. So let me check Sam Gilliam, see what he's all about. This might give me some interesting results if I combine it with Ingrid. Let's grab post minimalist structures here. I'm actually going to just see what this combination of words looks like and then kind of go from there. So if we look at the first result, this was obviously not even a photograph. It looks like there's a painting in there. And so in that one, we don't have any kind of photography descriptions. We don't have a camera. We don't have anything in here that's going to help it distinguish that this is not a photograph. We're not using any reference images either. So then we add in Hasselblad, which is my favorite camera to use personally, and we are giving it some of those keywords about abstract, concrete installation. So I added in abstract here. I added in smooth curves, and some of the other stuff I kept as is. So we're keeping Ingrid and Sam in here, and it just didn't really give me the results that I was looking for. And so as we continue to kind of go down, changing keywords here and there, you can kind of start to see the progression. And I'm really just trying to get the actual structure in this to look less Midjourney-ish. Like if you see this image, you kind of immediately know that it's a Midjourney image because it has this weird architectural, like morphing kind of thing. And I want it to feel like something that is unique, obviously, even though I'm still using Midjourney. So then I was like, all right, let me see what it looks like if I actually use the images as reference, but with my keywords of abstract, concrete installation with smooth curves, and it got a little closer. I really liked this bottom left one here. I thought like, okay, that is, that's the kind of concrete structure I'm looking for. And then I tried a different combination of keywords that I've used for images that I really, really enjoyed the output of. Alpo has these very vibrant, expressive paintings. And then we have Sia, who appears to be a comic book artist. This is very different from what you would expect as a photography prompt. But when I use those two artists with vibrant energy and just tonal, I get results that I really like. So this is still doing a little too much for the structure, but I love the framing of the subject. There's depth of field in there, which I didn't prompt for. There's just a little bit more of a dynamic composition. And so finally I was like, all right, I'm ready to introduce the actual reference images into this to see what we get. And I was pleasantly surprised. This is exactly what I'm looking for. We have the subject in a very dynamic composition. The concrete structures aren't doing too much. It kind of feels like something that could potentially exist in the world, and you wouldn't immediately think like, oh, that's a Midjourney thing. And now basically I'm going to explore combining this middle image of these two dope looking women with this beam of light that's like coming down to an empty grassy area. The results were really actually awesome, and I didn't even have to actually reference the images to find what I was looking for, but I wanted to show you guys what it looks like with the prompt that I thought was perfect, and using that same prompt with the reference images in the prompt. So up first, I took basically the same keywords from the describe function, and I just kind of jumbled them up with my same ending that has worked really well for me. So those two artists that I showed earlier, vibrant energy and tonal. So right off the bat, I was super impressed. Like, this is so cool. My prompt was two multicultural women this time instead of a black woman. I like to mix it up. if you don't indicate race, it's always going to give you white woman. And obviously, as somebody who is a person of color, it's nice to get results that don't just show white people. No offense to white people, it's nice to see diversity in the outputs. Cough, Midjourney developers, cough. Maybe don't make it so hard. But anyways, these results were really, really beautiful right off the bat. I mean, I love this top right one. It's super kind of like creepy, but also like ethereal, and I didn't put anything like that in there. I don't have ethereal in there. So I just did a few more kind of like experiments there. So the only update was I kind of want it to be in a forest. So I just added a forest nighttime scene, and these are super cool. This bottom left one is so creepy. I love it. And then finally, just to show what it looks like if I actually combine the prompt that I really love with those reference images, we get something that is super creepy. Much more on the nose, obviously, to those reference images, but it's really cool still. You know, I love, like, we get like a specific beam of light that we weren't getting before. Just describing beam of light kind of manifested in different ways beforehand, and we get those women standing next to each other more so in the way that they were in that reference image. I'm not mad at it, but I actually do prefer some of these other options where the poses were more dynamic. Midjourney had a little bit more flexibility with how they showed that beam of light, how they showed the two multicultural women interacting with one another. As you can see, just kind of like combining two completely disparate images, using the describe function to get those keywords, and also just experimenting with different keywords that have worked well for you from a stylization standpoint can really give you some powerful results that you would otherwise just not get. Something to note too is in the result that did actually use the reference image, the faces are kind of off. Again, Midjourney is going to really try to replicate those images as close as possible to the prompt that you gave it. And so you often find that faces get really messed up when you do that, compared to if I'm not using that reference image and I'm just using those prompts. These faces look super real. Like there's no distortions here. The hands look real, the faces look real, everything looks realistic. Whereas, you know, those reference images, it's trying, but it's like those are like ghost faces, which again, I mean, that might accomplish the goal you're going after, but I personally really prefer these images just based on the keywords in the prompt. So go out there, find your style, use those reference images, use the describe command, mix it up, have fun, and let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to see more stuff like this and more tutorials, more videos, I'm in Midjourney, I'm in Stable Diffusion, I'm in all the tools, I'm experimenting every day, so hit like, subscribe, and hope to see you soon.